Hi, and welcome to this conversation about international recruitment. Today's event is part of Lund University's Framtidsveckan, Future Week, and we are here today because we think that the future involves a need for broad and multifaceted competences. And we also believe that it may prove to be difficult to meet that demand without looking outside Swedish borders. It is thus an important future challenge to facilitate the best possible process for international recruitment. And my name is Ulf Maunsbach, and I will be the host during this forthcoming discussion. And I'm sitting here in the capacity of coordinator for Moving In, which is a research project that highlights different social science perspectives regarding mobility, with researchers from Lund University in close interaction with a network of external partners. And during today's discussion, I'm also here in the capacity of head of the law department with my own experience of mobility issues within Lund University. And being host means that I have the pleasure of inviting you to the Faculty of Law. And we are here presently located on the third floor of the library at the Faculty of Law. And we are surrounded by furnitures, actually old furnitures from the Appellate Court in Malmö. And this may all seem a bit strange to locate a conversation about the future in a room with a furniture that resembles history. But it is actually the other way around. History proves that international recruitment is vital. And I may use my own faculty as example. Our first ever appointed professor at the Faculty of Law in Lund was Samuel von Pufendorf. And he was actually headhunted from the university in Heidelberg back in 1667. And this actually proves that during those days, international recruitment worked quite well. So one can ask, does it work similarly smooth today? Do we have things to learn from history? Are there actually things that could or even should be improved when it comes to our processes in international recruitments, in order to put ourselves in a position where we can better meet future challenges? In order to figure that out, we have invited 4 participants with experience and knowledge about international recruitment, each representing a specific perspective. So we have Anna Jenke, chairman of the Regional Development Committee, Annagens Corner. And we have Jimmy Christensson, pro-vice chancellor at Lund University. And we have Mats Helmfrid, major at the City of Lund. And finally, Patrik Hiller, CEO at Telescope Services AB. And you will get to know each participant better during the conversation that will follow. The discussion will be moderated by Lisa Andersson, whom some of you might know from prior conversations that we have already recorded. And Lisa is talent attraction developer at International Citizen Hub Lund for the City of Lund. It's a long title, but she is knowledgeable and has important things to say. And you, Lisa, will lead and initiate today's conversation. So I actually turn to you now. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ulf. Thank you very much. I'd like to start with Jimmy. Jimmy, I'd like to put this question to you. What motivates you to lead the recruitment reference group at Lund University?
There are 2 things that motivates me. The first is that I know that we need to attract the best researchers and teachers as possible for us to be able to conduct world-leading research in education. And that means that we need to have good career paths and very good recruitment processes. The second is that I believe that we can constantly get better. And I think it's very important for us to always work with quality enhancing our various processes. And recruitment is one very important such process.
Okay, fantastic. I'd like to turn to Patrick. Now, Patrick, you do a lot of international recruitment. Could you tell us a little bit about the challenges you face in attracting and retaining this talent that you bring into Sweden?
Yeah, we've been, over the past 15 years, recruiting specialist engineers to the IT sector in Sweden. And one of the biggest challenges is, first of all, let them know where Sweden is. They can find it on the map. And in some cases also, to get them here, when they come here to Sweden, to get them involved in society, not only with a job, but also get them functioning in the society. In many cases, they have spouses and kids that need schools or daycare. And the process in sometimes takes a little bit too long when they come here from day one, which means that they're not in society from day one. It takes a couple of weeks before they end up there. And that's a bit tricky.
Okay, and sometimes not even just weeks, could be months.
Could be months.
Could be months. Mats, now the City of Lund has done something about this, about helping families to settle in and find a place in society here. What has the City of Lund done?
Well, when we were competing to get the large research facility ESS to Lund, we acknowledged together with Region Skåne that to attract people, we needed to have them to be able to settle in as soon as possible and actually likes being in Lund, because life is not all about work. It's also you have your free time and have to work and so on. And especially if they have a partner or bringing a whole family, then it's very important. So we created together with Region Skåne International Citizen Hub. And that helps with everything from telling how it works in Sweden, how do you get daycare, what are the good schools, should you choose an international school or a Swedish school, and also, and if you have a partner with you, I mean the partner should have a job or, and that's to help them, what kind of job can you get, how can you get it, and I think that Citizen Hub also have good connection with companies so they can see, we have really talented people here, why don't you employ them? So I think that's what the Citizen Hub does best.
Now, Anna, Region Skåne was mentioned. What's your role in helping with some of these challenges that internationals face coming here?
I would like to connect to Patrick and Mats. Region Skåne has an outspoken role to attract companies, innovations, people to come to Skåne, not just to work, to live. And therefore we have to create great values that if you come to Sweden or Skåne just to work, you will probably leave after a while. But if you find something else that you like a special town, kids can go to school, your spouse can work, you find a lovely environment, then you will stay. But if you don't have these special values, you may go back to your home country. And otherwise, I would also say that Sweden is not a famous country, so we really have to work hard to get the good possibilities that we have in Sweden. We are a very depending export and import country. Therefore, I think that we have a quite tough journey to do together to really get out what is Sweden. So people like Patrick work, we don't think that we are Switzerland, like is the common thing.
Let me face Jimmy here. Jimmy, now we talked a little bit about what is about this reputation. For example, Sweden isn't well known, but Lund University is the top 100 university in the world. Isn't it easy to get people to recruit people to the university?
Both yes and no. Of course, branding is important, but it's just one aspect and one way to spread the word, so to say. So branding is important, and perhaps especially important for people that would like to come to Lund from abroad. But then, of course, I think that one of the most important aspects is that researchers tend to have quite extensive networks. We publish internationally, we go to international congresses, we have international collaborations, and that's also a very important source to say to spread the word about Lund being such a great place to live and work in. So branding is important, but it's not the only marketing way, so to say.
I have a question there. Do you work in a special way to brand Lund University to spread the word? I think we have like Erasmus stipendia.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Is other way that you can see that Lund is getting out there if you compete to other universities?
We do have an international office at Lund University that works extensively with different strategies for attracting both students and potential co-workers. I think that we have a stronger system when it comes to attracting students. We have a long traditions of international students coming to Lund. But we also have a long tradition of international co-workers coming to Lund. But of course, a lot of that recruitment happens at the faculty. So we do different things. But I think that the individual research or research teams, they also do a lot when it comes to producing high quality knowledge that, so to say, makes it attractive to come here and work and do research. So it's difficult to say that we do this. We do a lot of things. We know that we can be better when it comes to attracting, or at least recruiting international co-workers. We can be much better in onboarding, for instance, introducing them to the country. I also think that we can be much better in actually spreading the words that Sweden is a very good place to live in.
Can I ask one more question about that? When you have co-workers from abroad, do you help them with how, to get the whole family or apartments, or do they have to do it by themselves?
We can offer some help and some assistance in that. But of course, people can come to Lund from various parts of the world to various departments. So I think it could look different depending on what kind of position you're applying for and what kind of work you're coming here to do.
Is the experience that the co-workers go back to the country that they came from, or are they staying in Skåne?
I think that we have both. Of course, research tends to be quite, so to say, fluent in that sense, that people go abroad for a shorter stay or a longer stay, and then they go back to their home countries and continue their career there. But then, of course, people that come to Sweden, they make themselves a career here, and perhaps they would like to stay. So I think that we have both.
I can say the same thing there, because most of the people we have attracted to Sweden are actually staying here, or they're relocating within Europe. But in not many cases they move back. Many come here with their spouse. They actually get their first 1, 2, 3 children sometimes here in Sweden, and they stay here. They go home for trips, like longer trips, 2 to 3 months, but then they come back and continue to work. And that's been going on for several years.
And it's very common at university that people perhaps come here for a postdoc, which is 2 years or perhaps 4 years, depending on. So it's also in the system that you have, so to say, shorter or medium-long positions. That's part of the academic system in a way.
Do you think are any hinders that, like legally hinders that are difficult when they come to work here in Lund or Lund University?
I think that we have the same obstacles or hinders that everyone that recruits internationally have, I would say. I think that we have different challenges that we need to work with when it comes to recruitment. And of course, our communication and collaboration with authorities is perhaps one aspect.
If I may just mention it was something very interesting, Anna, that you brought up, and Jimmy. Patrick, I think you have some experience of, as you said, those hinders, those things that concretely
there are some hinders,
make it difficult.
That in some cases actually makes us lose contracts with companies in Sweden. Not in the recent 6 months, but before. The reason is that, most of the clients we have, large Swedish companies, international companies, they can't wait 2 to 3 to 4 months to get people here. And now we have had a pandemic, the embassies have been closed in several countries over the world, flights has been cancelled, those kind of things. But in normal circumstances, when you get people into Sweden over the border, it takes too long before they're integrated in Swedish society. There's not like a package you just give and say, hey, welcome to Sweden, you're onboarded, here is everything. And we do a lot of that work, but like you said, Jimmy, the authorities should be a little bit more proactive in this case. I mean, there is a lack of somewhere, the figures fluctuate between 20 to 60,000 engineers for the next 5 to 6 years. That's only engineers. Then we have like people within hospital, like doctors, surgeons, and people working for universities. So something should be done.
I think that something really have to be done about that. The companies are approaching it, Lund University is approaching it, the communities approaching it, Annagens Corner is also approaching it. It takes far too long before we have the international workers on place. So I think that if we work more together, we are working together, but we are not working together structurally. We are working together sometimes in some projects, and when the projects are done, we not lose the connections, but almost. So I think that if we're going to solve this problem, we have to have a mission, a goal, and then we have to think about what are the hinders, and then make an action plan and then work structurally to get away these hinders. Because I heard that from very many companies, and so I wonder why it's not done already. It's easy to point the finger at the authorities, but they are like this, boxes, my words. But if we work together, I think that if we stand united, we could move the hinders step by step. And that's very important. For example, Skåne, we need people with special skills in all areas, really in all areas. So if we don't make something soon, we're going to have quite the problems to have companies existing, and even in our main area is the hospitals. We need very much people in that areas as well.
I have a very brief follow-up question there, a curious one. Who are we in this regard?
I think we are those who want something, and
Everybody.
yes, but everybody don't want the same. So I think I'm pointing at the companies, Lund University, the communities. We have not only Lund University in Skåne, we have Malmö University, we have Kristianstad Högskola, and so forth. So actually, if we can put us together, we could be a quite strong actor, and that's why that is what I think Annagens Corner's role. We could be the collecting actor, because I understand if Lund University work in their area, and the companies you're working to make your mission. So that are we.
And for example, if I say, as a city, of course, for us it's very important what Lund University does, because we kind of share the same brand, Lund University, City of Lund. So I think that is very important, and we are cooperating, but I think we could do much more. And of course, if you have been studying here and have heard about the university, then you are more curious, and what is Lund, what is Skåne, and is there interesting work, and so on. And also, with our international companies in Skåne, if you have heard about one of those companies and know, oh, they have an office there, they have a research department there, then you can get interested. You might end up somewhere completely different in another company or so on. But I think that it's part of we. Then, of course, as Party mentioned, it's all the authorities, tax authorities and immigration office. It's much harder to influence them. But they also need to speed up, and some rules also, I think, has to change.
Mats, you mentioned International Citizen Hub Lund and about the settling in and on board. Have you seen any impact from that part of settling in, that part of onboarding internationals into Sweden?
I think it started 6 years ago, and it's grown. And I've seen, it's both helping people with everyday things, as I said, getting daycare for the children and so on, but also to be a social network and get connections and learn to know people and so on here. So I think that is also very important. We don't just take care, we don't really take care because they don't work for us, but we take care of all the else that the companies might not do sometimes and forget. So I think it's grown, and also helping to attract and tell people that Sweden is a good place and Lund is a good place to work, and also have, like we did before the pandemic, having guests from the American students that had finished that exam and see, here are the opportunities if you want to work in Europe and in Sweden. And that's also important.
Patrick, you recruit outside of EU. Why don't you recruit within EU, if so similar to Sweden, for example?
Like you said, it could be easier. It's easier to travel here. But, look at the bigger countries in Europe. They had the same problems we have. They also need engineers. So salaries go up, which is, Germany is paying much higher salary than we do in Sweden, for example, for an engineer, which attract some people. That's where we've been always looking outside of EU to get them into Europe. And we've been contacted by, since we are successful in Sweden, we've been contacted by companies in both France and Germany to say, how can you help us find people here also, and also in Denmark. It's the same thing. But yeah, it's for us. We have been building up a recruitment network outside of EU, and very successful. And we've been able to pinpoint and find specialists that don't even exist to some companies here in Sweden.
Now, if we look at Mats, if we take a look at, you said about salaries, there's certain aspects, but what does Sweden have to offer besides money? Salaries are one thing, but you're coming with a family. Is there anything else Sweden can offer instead of just high salaries?
I think it's a good balance between your work life and your private life, so to say. You don't have to work 7 days a week or something like that. And there are a lot of we are not that populated, so you can easily go out into the nature and do things on your spare time and have a good life here. I think that is very important factor for people to move here.
I can just fill in but we have a lot of people coming from Asia. They have never experienced like allemansrätten in Sweden, where you can go out in any wood. They're not allowed to do that. So they're outside every weekend. You see pictures online that they're running around in the woods with the kids.
And clean water and
clean water and clean air.
Yeah.
And I think that we can be much better when it comes to spreading the word about these aspects of Sweden. Things that we tend to perhaps take for granted. That we have a welfare system that is in many ways unique. We have gender equality, even if we can become better in that as well. We have high levels of equality in Sweden in many aspects. We have a very solid democracy and very democratic processes. We have extremely good child support and things like that. And we tend to forget that.
That's actually one of the selling points we use with child support. If you have small kids, it's very expensive in some countries to have daycare and medication and dental care. So here in Sweden, it's a big load off their shoulders as a family.
And we have a good healthcare system, and it's paid for by taxes. So no one's tell you because you don't have the right insurance, you can't get this kind of healthcare. So I think that's also important.
And it's the same with education. It's free, even if you go to the university. Yeah. I didn't know if they changed that one yet, but in a way, for 1 to 9 and secondary schools, it's free.
It's free for EU citizens, education, university education, which is also a plus. Yeah. Absolutely. Anna,
but if you live here and your kids go to university, then you don't have to pay if you're living in Sweden.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is the plus. Anna, now working for Region Skåne, being part of that, you're almost the home to was it 3 universities, several well-known companies all over the region. What do you think is the region's role in this, in working with the company's university, in helping to recruit, to attract and retain this international talent?
I think that the region could take a bigger role, but it also we have to have a mission, like the companies, the university, the communities, they have to want to that we're gonna take that role, so we get the authority to make decisions. And it's not that easy to work with different kinds of organizations. We have one history in our structure. The companies want to work much faster than we do in the political ways. And the same thing I think in Lund University, you have a lot of history behind you as well. So you work in one way. So to manage to be a success, we have to understand how each part works. And when we do that, I think that we have more chance to succeed. But first of all, I think it's very important that we decide what do we want to do. Then after that, we make some plans to achieve the goals and learn about each other. So I always say that I'm working of the missions of skåningarna, the people that lives in Skåne, and the companies and the university, but we have to be united about what we want to do.
Do you think today's discussion would be a platform in order to identify those things we would like to pinpoint and do, and to create a further discussion? Do you think this discussion here has helped to lead in that way?
I think because we all experience the same problem, both the university, region, and if it's doctors or engineers or a professor working at the university, it's all the same problem. Attracting people to Sweden is one thing, but keeping them here and also to get them into society as quickly as possible. I shouldn't say that we need help, but authorities should be able to speed up the process.
I think definitely, but I think that if you're going to do that, we have to be more actors, not only University, we have the Malmö, Kristianstad, so it's cover whole Skåne. That is very important for me as a representative for Region Skåne. And I also think that if we have good communications, you can live wherever you want in Skåne and work in Lund or Malmö, but you can live in Kristianstad. These days you can work a lot of time at home as well. So we have a lot of possibilities to do that.
I think one thing is actually learning about the problems, because if we work within the city, I mean, we don't really exactly know what problems companies has and the university. It's actually to have a discussion and listen and think, what's our part? What can we do to enable things? And what shouldn't we do? I mean, we could help getting more international companies to Lund. I think that's also because if we have more international well-known companies, more people will come and be curious about Lund and about Skåne. So I think that is one way. So I think, yes, discussion like this are important.
Jimmy, would you like to elaborate a little bit more where you see the university's role in this discussion would be?
Yes, of course the university plays a role in this as well. So when I listen to my colleagues here, I hear that you want that we should start talking to each other and discussing things and perhaps start doing things as well. So let's do.
Okay, now Lisa is handing over the microphone to me. That means that we are short in time. And now there will only be one additional question for each one of you. And I start with you, Patrick, again. Would you like to suggest one challenge that we should continue to focus on based on the discussions that we have had today?
I think that should be for each and all here to be able to get people into the Swedish society quicker by collaboration on migration services, tax authorities and everything. I think that should be, yeah.
Well, this sounds like a challenge that will be enough for all of us to engage in. So yeah, thank you so much. And Anna, what are your thoughts based on today's
Well, I
discussions?
agree, of course, with Patrick. But if we're gonna take a smaller challenge, I think that one step is to start talking to each other and actually do something, not just only have the discussions. I have some examples that we work that way, that we said no discussions clubs, we just do. And so far it's not really good. But it takes that every part take her or his responsibility and actually learn about the other part so we can understand each other. That's very important to good collaborations,
Indeed,
I think.
Indeed, yes. Thank you. And Mats, what do you take away from today's discussions?
I'm thinking it's also to get Sweden and Skåne more internationally well known. I think that's to attract people, because if they haven't heard about us, why they don't want to come here because they don't know about the opportunity. That's one thing. I'm not sure that the city of Radio Skåne, it's our part to tell it generally, but it's also the university and the companies can do that. But also to work more with the International Citizen Hub and see what we can do more to identify and help people with the everyday problems that actually build up, and it could be a big problem in the end, and make people move to other parts if they can't settle in. So I think we also have to work further with that.
Yeah, I think we all agree to that. And thank you so much. And Jimmy, if you are to choose one of today's challenges, which would be the one that you would think that we should continue to focus more closely on?
Well, when I have listened to the discussions that we have had, it's very clear to me that we have, to some extent at least, we have different visions perhaps, we have different needs, we face different challenges, but we also have a lot of things in common that we need to work with. So I think it's very difficult to pinpoint this is the challenge. But my impression is that we have very good possibilities to actually start perhaps collaborating a bit more. So that's one important thing for me to take home.
Collaboration. That would be a perfect final word, perhaps. I have been mostly listening today, and it has indeed been very interesting to listen to your conversation. And I repeat myself now. It seems like collaboration is one way, at least, forward. And that there might be room to have additional conversations like this. So, who knows? We might see each other again in the not-so-distant future. But thanks all of you and Lisa for participating today.